Willie Robertson's entrepreneurial efforts started in grade school, but when his candy business got shut down, he turned his attention to his dad's fledgling business, Duck Commander. 4 decades later, Willie, now the CEO of the family business, helped launch the mega successful Duck Dynasty television show. In his latest book, American Entrepreneur, Willie shares what it means to be an American business owner and how 400 years of risk takers, innovators, and business visionaries built the USA.
Well, Willie's here, and it's great to have you on the show. And
good to be here.
Let's go back to the humble beginnings.
Yeah.
Because they
good old days.
Really humble beginnings.
The good old days. Yeah, not as, well, we talk about it. I mean, we didn't have a lot of money, but, you know, I guess compared to other people in the world, they weren't, you know, at least we were eating. And Dad was fishing all the time, and he was a commercial fisherman. That's what we were doing to pay our bills. And so if the fish are running, yeah, pretty good. And like Phil always said, the less money you make, you know, you may eat fish a lot. Once we made a little bit more money, we could start eating more steak. So that's kind of how it went. And he had this duck call, and he came with the idea in 1972. Actually patented. At the time, there was a reeded duck call. He didn't invent a duck call. It was a reeded duck call.
Single reed.
Single reed. He took two together and put them together, and that's what he came up with and patented it. And you know, he would tell these big stories about how many he was going to sell one day. And he said we'd sit around that dinner table, the same one we have, you know, dinner out in the show, and he'd say, "Boys, we're going to sell $1 million worth of these one day." And I didn't know how that was going to happen. I really didn't have the vision, I guess, when I was a youngster.
Did you believe it when he said it?
Well, I didn't know it, but Dad was pretty good about, you know, he was good about figuring stuff out. And I thought, I don't know how that's going to happen. And so as we grew up, we did every aspect of the business. We were the employees. We used to dip the duck calls, and you dip them in there, and then you would hang them on a board. And the ends of my fingers were always brown. I was always embarrassed, and I would keep my hand closed because people would ask, like, "What's that on your fingers?"
You dip them in tongue oil.
Dip them in tongue oil, yes. And he had a sheet of plywood with nails, and so you had to lean them just right so they would, you know, dry. Then you would sand, right, because you'd have one little deal that you'd have to sand. Then we sanded duck calls all the time, cleaned the shop out. We answered the phone. We were customer service. We did duck call demonstrations because people would call and say, "How do you blow this thing?" Or "Mine doesn't work. I'm blowing it from the wrong end." And so we did every job at Duck Commander as kids.
How did you become CEO? Because you're not the oldest.
Well, I'm not the oldest.
Typically, you think the oldest is going to
You would think that. Well, the oldest in our family became a minister. So. And we all actually, Jace, Al, and I all went to seminary, so we thought we may be preachers. But I think
that's a story that's not told.
No, it's
you all went to seminary.
We were all there at the same time, which is funny. Yeah, because Al was later in life. He'd kind of went through a rough stage in his life, and then came back and wanted to be a minister. Now he ended up being a minister, you know, for years and years. Jace did it and was like, it's not for me. So he went straight to work for Dad. I went for half of the program. But I was dating this girl named Corey, who I really thought I was going to marry, and she said, "I'm going to college." And I said, "Well, I'm in seminary." She goes, "Well, I'm going to college." I said, "All right, maybe I'll go to the college, and we'll figure out. This will be a sign. I'll come back to this. I can always reference you. Yeah, I can get that later. I don't want you to go to college alone because I figure I would lose her quick." So we were from the same hometown. But I think what had a lot to do with why I did that was because I always was about business. When I was a kid, I had a worm farm. When I was in 4th grade, I sold. My cousins reminded me. They said, "Willie, you sold pot holders for a while." There was a little grate, and you would stitch these things together, and I would sell these pot holders.
I used to make them for my mom.
Oh, yeah. Well, I made them and sold them to my cousins, apparently, who obviously couldn't cook at the time because they were young. But so I started just selling everything, trading cards, bartering stuff. I'd trade up.
You sold pot holders to kids who didn't cook?
Yeah, I'm assuming that's the case. I didn't even remember it. This had to be in 1st grade. I was doing this, and
I think you're born to this.
But my big break came when, because Dad was kind of a legendary hunter down there, and so people would come down and give us stuff, and they gave him a box of gum like that, like a whole box, like you'd see in a store, and I ended up with that gum, and I didn't know what to do. It was like it was wrecking me. Looking at this, I was, do I chew all this gum or do I? And so I said, I'm going to sell this. So I took it on a school bus, started selling it. And I'm like, man, it's going berserk. And so I went. Mom took me up to town. We got big boxes of lemon heads, all this candy that whatever the concession stand didn't sell. So what I went and bought. And literally started dealing this stuff all day out of my locker, making a fortune. And the true story, the principal called me down to the office, and I strolled in there, and he says, "Are you selling gum and candy out of your locker?" I said, "Yes, sir, doing pretty good." And he said, "I met with the concession stand. Their sales are down. I got to shut you down." And so my business went to pot. And I tried to sell pencils and stuff. And then I ended up doing this thing called the human jukebox, where I'd get on the school bus and people would put quarters under my arm, and I'd act like I was a jukebox, and I would sing songs for a quarter. And it wasn't as lucrative as the bubble gum, but it was at least a way to make a little money. So yeah, I kind of always had that knack, and went away from the business. Never really thought I'd work for Duck Commander. Didn't have a clue I'd ever work down there for Dad. I kind of was like, I've done this, I'm going on, I'm doing something different. Corey and I got married, went to college, I got my degree. And that was another thing, was I'd gotten my degree, and didn't know what I was going to do. I ran a little Christian camp, and so I didn't make a lot of money, but had a lot of fun doing that. Corey and I were together, had John Luke, had Sadie, so I was able to spend a lot of time with them. And then my late 20s, I got the hankering. I said, hey, so I said, Dad, remember I used to sell all that stuff? And the business at that point was kind of down. Dad thought he had pretty much done everything he was going to do. And I said, well, let us take it over. So Corey and I took it over, and we brought all this energy, because we came in like it was fresh. Jace had been working there a while, and everybody was like, we don't know how to sell more duck calls. And really came in there and shifted some stuff around. This is at the time the internet was coming, so I remember going to Dad. I said, Dad, look, we've got to go from VHS tapes to DVDs. And he was like, that's a terrible idea, you know. And I said, Dad, this is way better product. And he's like, I have a VHS player. I said, I know, but you're like one of the last people. So he said it was a bad idea. I said, Dad, we need to have a website so that we can move our products and people are going to buy this stuff online. He said, that's a terrible idea. And I'm like, Dad, that's how people are going to buy stuff. He said, if people want to order our product, they can pick up the phone and call. And I said, Dad, we're going to have, so we did the website. And the last bad idea he said I had was doing a television show. He was like, that's a terrible idea. And a bad idea, it'll never work. So I often remind Dad, I said, Dad, these are the things you thought wasn't going to happen. And so it was a real transition. And I love it because Mom and Dad were able to really let that happen while they were still there. And so still working for the company. And they were like, hey, you take it, and y'all got the ideas. And so Corey and I'm writing the book a lot about Corey and how much she helped, because she came from a business background. And so
and I think that's an untold story too.
It really, I mean, she came from a business background. They had sold a whole business to Sam Walton. They had sold their publishing company to Simon Schuster. And so yeah, they had built a lot of businesses and sold them. So she was all about business. And
who comes up with all the marketing ideas?
We all do. We came up with, yeah. Somebody asked me, well, who came up with the beards and hair as a marketing idea? And Dad says, that's a northwest wind came up with that. So blowing in our face when we're sitting out there duck hunting, it's like freezing. So there was no marketing guru that said this should be the look. And obviously it became kind of the look. We know that through the TV
one of my favorite ones is everybody dressed in camo in a room that's camo.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And
that was a miserable shoot. I'll never forget that day. Well, those things were, they were like, I don't know what, it was like the thickest material, and it didn't breathe, and they had it all cut. And so I go to put my pants on. I'm about, 7 inches short from meeting, the button to the hole here. And I go, there was a Russian lady who was the seamstress, and I go, ma'am, my pants don't fit. And she goes, take off the trousers. And I went, do you want me to go somewhere? And she went, take off the trousers. I said, oh, just right in front of you. Okay, man. And she went, and just ripped the back of them, and then she sewed it back. They were barely on in the back. And that's how I had to sit in that commercial and do that from the back. So that's a little behind-the-scenes stuff of Duck Dynasty. I wish I did stuff.
All right, there's more behind-the-scenes stuff in his wonderful book, American Entrepreneur. You get the inside story of how Duck Dynasty really became a dynasty. And then, on top of it, there's more risk takers, innovators, business visionaries, all built in the USA. It's available nationwide today. Make a great Christmas gift. Willie, thanks for being with us.
Appreciate it. It's good to be here.
All right.